Today, we are going to be moving on to lesson 9.3. This lesson is all about problem solving and analyzing the relationships between variables. So, this lesson really just builds upon what we've done all in chapter 9 so far about looking at the relationship between variables and using graphs. And today, we're going to see how we can use all of that information to solve word problems. So we are on page 503, so take a second to make sure you are on the correct page. We're going to start with this unlock the problem. And the problem says the table shows the amount of water pumped through a fire hose over time. If the pattern in the table continues, how long will it take a firefighter to spray 3,000 gallons of water on the fire using this hose? So if we look in the table, it says 1 minute is 150 gallons of water. In 2 minutes, it will spray 300 gallons of water. 3 minutes is 450 gallons of water, and 4 minutes is 600 gallons of water. So, like we do with a lot of our word problems, we're going to use this graphic organizer to kind of help us think about what are we trying to do in this problem and how we can solve it. So let's go ahead and look at the read the problem. So we need to figure out, what do I need to find? Go ahead and reread the word problem and underline what we are trying to find and what are we trying to figure out in this problem. So I'm going to look and I see what we're trying to find is how long will it take the firefighters to spray the 3,000 gallons of water. So I'm going to underline this section over here. And I'm just going to draw an arrow to this box here. I don't really think we need to rewrite it. And then we're going to think about what information do we need to use. So I'm going to think the information that I want to use is this information over here in the table, right? This tells us the information that we're going to want to be using. We want to look at the relationship between the time and how much water is used. So we're looking at the relationship between time and the amount of water. H2O. All right, so we need to think about, how are we going to use this information? Well, I'm going to think we can look at the pattern, what's happening in these numbers, and we could write an equation to help us solve the problem. So we're going to find a pattern in the table to write our equation. All right, let's move over to the solve the problem part. So we're going to use the table above to find the relationship between the time and the water. So I'm going to think that the amount of water to go from the time to the water, right? It's times 150. So for every minute, we're getting 150 gallons. So our equation could be the amount of water, we could say W, the amount of water times the number of minutes. It says T for time. I would almost say M for minutes, but whatever. So the however long that they're using the hose, we're going to times that by 150, and that's the total amount of water, right? So 2 minutes would be 2 times 150, and that was the 300 gallons. 3 times 150 is going to be that 450. 4 times 150 is 600. So now we're going to use this equation to figure out what it would be for 3,000. So we want to have a total amount of water is 3,000. So we're going to put that in for our W. Substitute 3,000 for W. And now it's just solving an equation. We've done this in chapter 8, where we want to get that variable by itself. So if I'm timesing 150 by t, to get t by itself, I want to do the opposite. And we're going to think, what is the opposite of multiplying? Yeah, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we're going to divide each side by 150 to get rid of the multiplying by 150. And so we could set this up, 3,000 divided by 150 can get any from 3 or from 30, from 2 for 300. Bring down that last zero and we'll have 0. So 20 minutes is our time. It'll take 20 minutes to spray that 3,000 gallons of water. Take a second and make sure that you have this filled in, because this is kind of a lot to think about when we're doing these. All right, go ahead, flip the page, and we're going to look at page 504. And we're going to do this one that says try another problem. So dairy cows provide 90% of the world's milk supply. The table shows the amount of milk produced by a cow over time. If the pattern in the table continues, how much milk can the farmer get from a cow in 1 year, which is 365 days? So we can see that 2 days, they get 50 liters of milk. In 7 days, they get 175 liters of milk. In 10 days, they get 250 liters of milk. And in 30 days, they get 750 liters of milk. So take a second, and I'm going to give you some time to see if you can fill in these top 3 sections of the graphic organizer. So the read the problem section. We're only going to do these 3 top boxes. See how much of this you can fill in, and then we'll check it. All right, so the first thing we need to do is, what do I need to find? So what are we trying to find? So we want to find how much milk can the farmer get in 1 year. And again, I'm just going to draw an arrow for the sake of time. I'm not going to rewrite all of that. What information do we need to use? Well, we need to use the time, let's see, the days, and how much milk we make in those days. So the amount of milk. So really, we're going to be using this table over here to help us figure out our relationship between those X and Y values, the time and then the amount of milk. And then we're going to be thinking about, how can we use this information? Well, just like in the last problem, we can use this information to write an equation. So we can think that we are trying to find Y, right? Our answer is always trying to find Y. And Y is going to equal, and so if I go from 2, how do I go from 2 to 50? That's what we have to think about. So this goes back to lesson 9.1. So to go from 2 to 50, I'm going to times it by 25. So our X, we're going to times that by 25 to get our Y. So we would say 25 times X equals Y. All right, so now that we have our equation, we are trying to remember that we want to figure out how much milk we can get from a cow in 365 days. So I'm going to look at our table, and our days are our X values. I'm going to put a little box around this. So we want to put 365 in for our X, because that's how many days we are looking at. So I'm going to do 25 times 365. Take a second on your paper to see what is 25 times 365. So you hopefully got that that is 9,125. So the liters of milk that they're making is 9,125, which is quite a lot of milk. All right, so we have practiced a couple of these. Like I said, this kind of is just a compilation of what we've practiced in the previous lessons. And so I'm going to give you some time to go ahead and practice them on your own. And if you get stuck, look back at this video. You can also go back to the previous lessons and watch those videos as well.